First of all, Kev, if we reflect before we look forward, we've picked up a great point, hard-earned point last week up at Gateshead, and backed up the win against Chesterfield, didn't it?
Yeah, I think when you look back at the couple of days around the game, travelling up, getting injury on the day, and people failing medical fitness tests, so then we had to change the team last minute, and then for them to dig a point out was brilliant credit to them. Because Gates had probably better team in the first half, but second half, once we organised, we created chances ourselves. So with the circumstances surrounding it all, I think a brilliant point.
Yeah, and it, 2 tough games on paper, weren't they? And it's now just 1 defeat in 10 all in all. So you must be really pleased with how resilient the team are and by being hard to beat.
Yeah, it's. Last week was different because Chesterfield at home, we got 8,500 here cheering you on. And then you go to quite an open stadium with a sparse crowd, if you want, bar our fans. The atmosphere makes it different, and it's a different type of game. So you've got to react differently and find ways to get results. And we've done that recently, but we've got to keep working hard and keep performing to get any points.
Yeah, and we're now prepared to head back to Rootsall and face a Wealdstone side who got a good win last weekend against the local rivals, and they've proven to be a very good footballing side, aren't they? And it'll be a tough game, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the games we had last year tell you that not much in the 2 teams at all. They, as you say, a good footballing side, and great win last week, which does wonders for confidence as well. So real tough one, we know that. But any team in this league that, if you're not on it, you can come unstuck, and right throughout the league, whoever you play against, that's the case. And as I say, Wealdstone have done brilliantly. Last year they're right up there for long periods as well, and we sure it'll be a tough game both ways.
Yeah, you're looking forward to getting back to Rootsall and playing in front of the home fans again?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, long journey last week, so it'd be nice to get in front of the fans. The good crowd in, and the support they'll give us and give the players will be massively important, and we need them to bring the atmosphere. And any time an away team comes in, and our fans are on it, and getting the lads going and making it difficult for opponents if you want as well, and that plays a massive factor for us.
Yeah, you mentioned just on the team news front, you mentioned a couple of injuries that you picked up late last week that sort of affected the team against Gateshead that you were able to put out with Wes and Ollie Coker both picking up injuries. What's the news on them 2 at the moment?
Yeah, as you say, Wes on the Friday picked up a tweak in his hamstring, so hasn't been able to do any training this week yet. And the same with Ollie Coker. So, it's only Thursday now, so we've got another day prep tomorrow. So we'll see where they're at with that. But haven't been able to get them on the training ground as of yet.
And we're now sort of moving into December, where we've got 6 games to look ahead to, look forward to, of course. But obviously, when you're sort of light on numbers as well, you sort of sometimes fear the worst. And where we've just come through a month with only 3 games, and then you've got to look ahead to sort of get through December. Does that sort of concern you a little bit?
Yeah, it's an always. I think having 2 players on the bench for the last 2 games tells you how difficult that is, and anyone in this league has a full bench, and and has 2 or 3 in the stands as well. What we haven't been able to do is that, and where we've had to manage in terms of training, it affects obviously what you do there. And as you say, I'm not looking too far ahead towards as we go into December. My focus on the game ahead, and that's how we've got to be. We've got to pick a team that can go get a result, and then we'll deal with what comes off the back of that until we can start bringing bodies in, or we get injuries back, of course.
Yeah, I know you sort of crack on with it and deal with the situation at hand. You have done for 4 months this season. You go back even further into last season, of course, but where you have such a small bench and you're going to sort of pick up niggles here and there, you're now seeing the repercussions maybe of that slightly.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the intensity of the game we had against Chesterfield, and what you can't do is rest players, and you can't take people out, or you've got to manage training as such. It all has a knock-on effect, because I think every club in the country will suffer injuries. What we can't do, and especially at National League level, clubs can bring players in. We can't do that, unfortunately, and that's where we are. Complain about all we want, but we've got to get on with it, and we've got to try and get a team out that can perform.
Of course, you are such a high energy team, and the lads do brilliantly, don't they? Giving so much. So credit to them for constantly, putting that work ethic in that gets the results that we have been able to get.
Yeah, all credit to them. They've been unbelievable, and to be the position we are in the league, even though it's really tight, it's a huge credit to them, because I think you look at the teams last year who were in trouble, who came, your Yeovils, Scunthorpe, who end up going down. What's going on here is a minor miracle with everything the players have done and the staff have done. So, any result we get should be a bonus. But within the building, we know what we've got, and when we can get our team out, we're a match for anyone, as we showed this year.
Cheers, thanks, Kev.
With the schedule and the small squad, obviously this game was moved from for Tuesday. I guess it's the balance, isn't it, of not having to have lots of games in a small period of time, but also making sure you've got that consistency and a bit of momentum to get game time. Yeah,
it is. I think, momentum is a big thing in this league. I think, when you're in a good period and people are fit, you just want games to come. You want as little training as possible. You want to play every Saturday, Tuesday. And the rhythm of doing that, I think the players get into that as well. So, listen, we've got games coming up that we've got to deal with. But as I said before, we can only do that as it comes, and we've got to react, which is the frustrating thing, because you're reactive more than being proactive on stuff and planning, a month down the road what's going to happen and who you've got available.
Never really like to mention this too much before a game, but Wealdstone haven't won away yet this season. You obviously have such a good home record, but as you said, in this league, it's so much about anyone can beat anyone. It's so much about fine margins.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's been so many close games, and you've got to perform. You've got to be on your game. If you don't perform, then the chances are you're not going to win a game. And I don't think it matters where your home form is, where your away form is. It is what it is. You've got to perform on the day. Wealdstone are a very good side. I think they've, the away games I've watched, that they've been more than in games, and have created problems for teams as well. So, we know the troubles that they can cause teams. It's up to us to impart our game on theirs as much as we can, and hopefully get a result.
Is there any update on Colin?
He's been training, so with the injury he's had, it's about getting him through, a bank of training and hopefully seeing when he's ready to play.
And I guess when that does come, you then have to think about your juggling of your squad and registering, etc.
Yeah, there's all that. Deregistering. It's it's a complicated process. We've got 2 subs. Why we couldn't have a keeper on there? You know what I mean? It's some of it doesn't make sense at times, but it is what it is. Listen, we've got everyone fit. We know we're competitive. The difficulty comes, the pitches change, a bit heavier. Injuries come, and we've got to deal with that.
And just on a wider subject that's been discussed in football this week, there's been talks about the trials of sin bins at a lower level and how that could work its way up eventually into the professional game. Do you sort of have any thoughts on if that came, how that might impact on things?
I think we've got to get things right first before we try to move on to other stuff. I think you've seen the VAR this week, and I think it should be a good thing. It's how it's implemented is probably the biggest concern I think people have had. I see what Wolves and Gary O'Neill are dealing with, and he's kept very calm, to be fair to him, but let's get that right first before we start implementing more stuff and moving ahead with things. Let's nail down the VAR and the other bits and pieces.
How do you think you would have coped with a sin bin when you played?
I could have been in it a few times, but I'm not sure. We're following rugby stuff here, aren't we? But you look at rugby and you watch how they use the TMO and stuff, and how concise and clear and the clarity around it. And you listen to the VAR played back and you're going, oh wow, there's 1,000,001 things going on here. So there's a lot to learn. Are we ready for sin bins yet? Probably not, I'd say.
Thank
you. You definitely would have been.
Oh, definitely.
Do you still go to the National League to try and get players in, or what's the situation when you just have had the 2 subs?
Yeah, this is difficult because it's about the injuries and when they're coming back and how long they're out for, and we speak to them and we'll put a case forward, but it's case by case basis. So no, we are what we are at the minute.
Yeah, is there anyone who's on your contract? Any situation going on there?
Not at the minute. I think we've been talking. Listen, there's obviously a lot going on at the club, with the takeover and stuff like that, and I would have thought that's all linked in, and that needs to be done as soon as possible, I think, for everyone's benefit. And the bigger picture is that needs to be done first.